This man has been called the American saint, the prophet of the long road.
In the United States, there are towns and cities, hospitals, homes, and schools, from Maine to South Georgia and beyond, named for Methodist leader Francis Asbury.
He was a frontiersman and a pioneer. He could have given Lewis and Clark a map to follow before they embarked on their journey and told them which roads to take and which roads were dead ends.
Asbury brought Methodism to America in 1771. Over the next 45 years, he covered some 265,000 miles on horseback.
The Methodist message that he brought was that God's love can be experienced by everyone. And that once it's experienced by everyone, the Holy Spirit takes up residence in your life and makes a difference.
The son of working-class parents in England, Asbury received little formal education. He apprenticed as a metal worker and became a local lay preacher. At age 22, John Wesley appointed him to serve as a missionary among the American settlements. His became a life on the road, and Asbury never married.
And we tend to think it was easy. A British Methodist traveling on his circuit could usually get to a town on the same day, go from one town to the next. When you start across the Appalachians, or even across the Potomac, you could travel days before you got to a town.
And there were more challenges in this new mission field.
There were Methodists who said, well, we need to be able to serve communion. We need to be able to do these things. No one was ordained at that point. And Wesley struggled with that, and so he's set apart Koch and others to come over to the U.S., ordain Asbury, that is one of the other leaders of the Methodist movement.
Under Bishop Asbury's direction, the Methodist Episcopal Church grew from 1,200 to 214,000 members and more than 700 ordained preachers. Among the men he ordained was Richard Allen of Philadelphia, the first African-American minister in the United States.
Someone pointed out that Asbury never really asked any of his preachers or pastors to do anything that he didn't do.
Asbury set a high standard by his own example, but the constant travel proved too much for some in his charge. He kept a book with detailed critiques of his preachers.
There would be, Jones and the word useful next to it. Peters, a baller, which means as he sings or as he preaches, he just sort of kind of yells constantly. He's a baller. Needs practice.
There were times in the conflicts in the development of the American Methodist Church in the colonial era when he could have drawn a very hard line in the sand. But he seemed to have the knowledge and insight to know that when enforcing the rules too strictly might have a negative and deadly effect on his developing the American Methodist Church. And the American Methodist Church of his legacy, by 50 to 75 years after his life, was the largest church body in America.
There's a statue of him in our nation's capital. I think it's appropriate. There's a statue here at Drew in one of our seminaries. He traveled, he spoke to a variety of people. He was comfortable talking to the upper crust, and he was comfortable talking to slaves, talking to backwoods poor people and shopkeepers. I think that stature reminds us that's where we as a church need to be, in all of these places, reaching out in all these kinds of ways.
This video was brought to you by the people of the United Methodist Church through World Service donations.